You have to be really adaptable to be a wildlife filmmaker. Every time I go on a shoot, I kind of bring in together all the different aspects. So it'll be the technical, the logistical, the artistic, and invariably something entirely different will happen. And that's sort of the joy of wildlife filmmaking. In this video, we're going to talk a little bit about camera techniques, what they are, and how they can help you. There is layers and layers of different techniques, so I'm just going to give a few today, but they can really help drive your story, tell your story. And I'm going to start with shot size. With shot size, when you're telling a story, you want people to understand where an animal is. So I would always start off with a big wide shot, which will allow you to put that creature in its environment, allow you to understand why it's there, what it's there, and its size. How big is it in relation to that tree or that mountain? So a big wide shot, always a great start. Then a really tight close-up, where you're just concentrated on the face, or even the eyes if you can get that tight. It's brilliant because it really tells that animal's story, but it also allows you to just really feel the animal, you know, to kind of engage with it again. It's all about the emotional engagement. I always try and think of the frame as a rule of thirds. So you've got your frame, and it's divided 2 lines. So you've got 1, 2, 3. And what I don't want is the animal in the middle of that frame. I want it to be either in the top third or the bottom third. Be really careful about feet. A lot of people will film stuff and the feet they drop out the bottom of the frame. Try and keep that animal in frame in its entirety if you're doing a big wide shot. This is really simple. The lion is here. The lion's got loads of space to walk into. It's the main protagonist, and also you'll see he's like in the bottom of the frame and there's loads of space above. So that is a close-up. You can use it with the wide and it'll work really, really well. And this is your cutaway, and your wild dog's going to get, and he's going to move out of frame, and now you've got a cut. You can also affect the way you tell a story by use of depth of field. And what I mean is what's in focus. How much is in focus? That will shape the story. So if you're doing a wide shot, you want to see everything, because otherwise it's going to feel a bit weird. But if you're in a close-up, you're going to want maybe a very small depth of field, maybe just the eye, and that can be really amazing. Also, if you've got like a herd of animals, you put your focus on one animal with a very shallow depth of field, and so that only they are in focus. That makes you look at that animal, and that can be a wonderful thing as well. So think about how you want to tell your story with your depth of field. Another one of the layers that we use when we're telling stories with cameras is speed. So the speed of your camera. If you want to add a little bit of something, maybe you're watching an animal walking, if you slow it down a little bit, it'll give that animal's feet more presence. Or if there's an amazing piece of action about to happen, slow it down and it can look fabulous. So speed is a really important tool. You can also use the speed of the camera to make things more dramatic. A storm is coming in, then put it on time lapse, because you'll feel those clouds moving so quickly. So use the speed to affect your story. I'd like to give you an example of filming something moving really fast, and an obvious one is a cheetah. And there are different ways you can approach not only your framing but your speed. Consider slowing it down. They run really fast, and so if you want to see all those muscles moving, you know, slow that whole thing down to maybe 120 frames per second, and you really get a sense of the power of that animal. Instead of coming here and shooting it from the side, which is going to be kind of an unsatisfactory shot, I'm going to drive my vehicle right round to there and have the cheetah when it runs and it chases, and it happens right in front of camera. That's the plan. It never quite goes that way, but that's the plan. There's fabulous technologies that are coming in, drones, gimbals, and all of these can be used in different ways to add variety and help you tell your story. I would urge anyone to use it to tell your story, as opposed to just for the sake of, you know, throwing a bit of technology at something. If you're going to use a drone, why are you using it? Well, you know, you want to sense a place. There's no better tool. But use it once and use it well, and use it slowly. Too many drone shots are shot like rushing through the air, but actually, you know, take your time and be really slow. Be gentle with everything, with all of our moves. Unless you want a whiplash pan, then use that. It's up to you. You're the boss. There are some really simple things you can do just to make your imagery better on location, and that's like be aware of your horizon, keep it straight. It's too easy to let it stray, keep it straight. A great piece of advice I was given by a guy in South Africa was using a a strap or a belt around the thing you hold onto in a car to put your long lens through, keeping it steady so you've got an instant sort of like platform instead of having to kind of try and, put up some sort of tripod or whatever. Use what's around you. One of the other things that might be really useful to consider when you're filming as well is if you see something where you are that's sort of interesting, that might be a good cutaway. It could be a bird sitting on a branch or something just looking, or a head turn. Shoot that because it might help you tell your story. You'll often see it actually in wildlife films. It invariably will be when we've missed a shot and we're all like, oh, what can we do? What can we do? And you'll see a bird go, and that's a cutaway. Get them, they're good. Everybody makes mistakes when they're filming. I try very hard not to, and with 25 years of experience, I tend to make less. But when you do make a mistake, also let it roll, let it go somewhere, because you actually might end up with something you weren't expecting. It's not rocket science, but to get good at what you do, you've got to practice it. It's how we all learn, and this line of business is no different. The 5 takeaways on this are: number 1, get a variety of shots and use a variety of techniques where applicable, where relevant. Number 2 is camera speed or frame rate. Mix it up, but use it where it's relevant. It can add massive effect, but it also can take away. So just think about how you're using it. Number 3 is framing. So don't forget your rule of thirds, and also room for noses. Let that animal have space in the frame to go into. Number 4 is wonky horizons. Keep an eye on them. It makes you look unprofessional. Keep them level. And finally, depth of field. Wide shots, greater depth of field. Close-ups, you can play with it much more. But whichever way you use it, just think about how it will make your story better and just play with it.